Another year, another batch of comic book adaptation slop, and it is that time of year where we must reflect on all of the comic book adaptations that came out this year. I'm talking about movies, I'm talking about TV show, I'm talking about video game. Singular. Let's get into it. And yes, everything is ranked from worst to best, starting at the worst. At number 16, I have Captain America Brave New World. This movie was ass. Listen, I'm not going to go on my whole spiel with this movie. I have a video where I break down my conspiracy theory, but basically, I believe that this movie was supposed to be something else, and because Marvel didn't want to be a big controversy in the culture war, they basically stripped this movie of any kind of artistic identity or integrity. And I think that's the reason why we got this weird, just nonsense movie where Captain America doesn't really stand for anything, where there's like an Israeli superhero that's barely in it, that feels like all her scenes were cut out. This is just the prime example of how not to respond to the culture war. When you make a movie that has no identity, that has nothing to say, that just doesn't feel like art made by an artist, you're not going to please anybody. You're not going to please the super woke people. You're not going to please the anti-woke people. You're just going to make something that nobody cares about. At number 15, I have Marvel Zombies. This was a thing that I thought looked kind of cool, and then I watched it and I went, that's whatever. That's a show that exists. Yeah, I think this really just comes down to me not liking the What If writers' work. I also don't really like the animation style, because this is basically just a few episodes of What If set in that same world that Marvel Zombies episode was in. And I mean, look, if you think that the idea of, whoa, dude, Spider-Man ripping zombies' heads off with webs, that looks cool. Like, the show is going to deliver some fun action, but, like, if you want anything else from this, like a good story, good dialogue, or anything like that, yeah, that's just not really here. And you might think that me wanting that from a Marvel Zombies show is unreasonable of me. And I mean, yeah, sure, I guess. What do you want me to say? At number 14, I have Ironheart. This is a show that Marvel weirdly just kept on the back burner for like 3 years. Like, I think they shot it, and then for like 3 years they were editing it and I guess working on the VFX, and it's just really weird. I don't understand why, because the show came out and it was fine. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's definitely not as bad as something like Moon Knight or She-Hulk or anything. So I don't really understand it, but there's also nothing particularly remarkable about it. It definitely does feel just like content that they made during that era where Marvel was just making as much content as possible. But, you know, there certainly are some redeeming aspects to it, like the emotional core of the story, which is Riri's relationship with, you know, her hologram best friend or whatever. That was genuinely pretty endearing. The visual effects were really great for the most part. The suits looked really cool. No nanotech. Thank you, Marvel. Please stop with the nanotech. And the ending was actually really cool. The fact that it ends with Riri making a deal with the devil and not ending with her being a hero and rejecting the deal and stopping Mephisto or whatever, like, that is genuinely pretty cool. They kind of did in this show what they were unwilling to do with Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is have an ending where the villain wins. The villain beats Ant-Man. In this show, the villain beats Ironheart and makes Mephisto a more intriguing and larger threat, you know, continuing on in the MCU. Because now Sacha Baron Cohen can show up in whatever he wants, and it'll be cool, because it's like, oh, that's that guy that beat Ironheart. But yeah, overall, nobody needs to watch this. But I did, and it was fine. All right, at number 13, I have Daredevil Born Again. Speaking of the Devil, yeah, this is a show that's definitely a mixed bag. There are certainly some great aspects to this first season. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are always great, but we all know the backstory behind the show. There was originally a set of creatives who were working on the original version of it. Then Marvel fired them because they didn't like what they were doing. So then a fresh new set of showrunners came in, and They reshot some stuff, but I guess they didn't have like a budget to reshoot the entire series. So they basically had to do like a Frankenstein's monster of a first season where it's like a mixture of the old footage with the new footage, and it just doesn't come together super neatly. And the main reason why I'm not more upset about it is because I know that backstory. And when you look at the two episodes, which was like the first episode and the last episode, where you can tell that that was entirely shot by the new set of showrunners, it's like those two episodes are really awesome. It's really the stuff in the middle that's clearly a mishmash. The original showrunners really just want to tell a Daredevil and Kingpin story, and then all the stuff in the middle is just like weird stuff with Muse that doesn't really fit into the larger story, and it's just like, eh. But again, I still like that first episode and that last episode enough that I'm like, I think a new season 2 that's entirely ran by the new showrunners will be great. So that's kind of what I'm resting my hope in. And that's why I'm not as upset about this first season. And also, if I'm just being completely honest, even bad Daredevil with Charlie Cox is still good. It's like pizza. Like, it's not like I didn't enjoy watching this season. At number 12, I have Harley Quinn Season 5. The Harley Quinn animated series, I think, started off really strong. Like, I love those first 2 seasons. And then it just kind of kept going. And it feels like the writers and the showrunners have just kind of run out of ideas in regards to keeping the show feeling fresh. Because Season 5 is good. It's enjoyable. I still really like these characters. I still really enjoy the shenanigans that they get up to. I still enjoy parodies of all the DC characters. Like, it is still an enjoyable experience watching this show. But I also just can't really get away from the fact that I'm like, yeah, it's more of Harley Quinn. But that's also why I can't rank it too much higher than this, because the show has never quite been able to recapture the magic of those first 2 seasons. And if they really are going to continue on with this show, I really do feel like they have to do something to shake things up a bit. And at number 11, I have Eyes of Wakanda. If you don't know what this is that animated series that's basically like an anthology of different Wakandan warriors / like secret agents throughout history. It's a pretty cool concept. The main problem with the show is that it's very short. It's like a 4-episode thing, and it's also a bit of a mixed bag. I think that the first 2 episodes of this were surprisingly great. Like, unlike What If, the first 2 episodes of this were genuinely good and like pretty serious and emotional, and I was like into the story and the characters. And then the 3rd episode is like fan service-y stuff where, like, you know, that version of that during that time period of Iron Fist shows up and crosses over with the secret agent that we're following in that episode. And it's cool, but like it's just not as emotionally impactful as the first 2 episodes. And then the 4th episode is just kind of bad. Well, it's not bad, but it feels the most like an episode of What If, where it's just like I didn't really care about the story. So overall, it's short enough, and the first 2 episodes are good enough that I would recommend it. Like, you're not gonna feel like you've wasted your time if you watch this show, but I'm also not going to implore anybody watch it. At number 10, I have Bat Fam. You probably have no idea what this is. This is a spin-off TV show of an Amazon Prime exclusive Batman Christmas movie called Merry Little Batman, which follows Damian Wayne going on a Home Alone-esque Kevin McAllister-ass like Christmas adventure. And then this is a spin-off show that is also exclusive to Amazon Prime, where Wayne Manor has a bunch of wacky characters, and that is the Bat family in the show. As you can see here, it's not the traditional Bat family. It's this like little redheaded girl called Claire that Bruce Wayne randomly adopts. Ra's al Ghul is in the Bat family. He's like a ghost. Alfred Pennyworth has a niece called Alicia that's also in this. It's a wacky cast of characters, admittedly. But you know what? It's kind of great. I don't know. I really enjoyed this one because it is unique. Because normally you have something like Batman the Animated Series, which is very self-serious, and I'm a serious TV show, blah, 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 blah. Even recently, we had that other Batman animated series, whose name I'm forgetting the name of, but it was very much in the vein of Batman, the animated series. Or you have something like Teen Titans Go, which is just kind of like brain rot content. This is not that. This is more of a wholesome Batman show that actually has like a story arc throughout the whole season. The characters have arcs throughout the whole season. It is very kid friendly, right? Like you can pop a little kid in front of it and they're not going to, see something that's going to traumatize them. And it is still well written enough and it is still funny enough that even an adult can watch it with them and not want to blow their brains out. So I really enjoyed the show. I think especially if you have a kid, check it out. But even if you don't, and you're like me, and you are still enough of a child inside that you'll sit down and watch a superhero animated show, this is one to watch. All right, at number 9, I have Marvel Cosmic Invasion. This is the only video game that, as far as I know, was a comic book adaptation in 2025. Like, yeah, we didn't get any like big AAA comic book games, which kind of disappointing, I guess, but also, fair enough. Keep working on those games. I know that they take a really long time to make. But anyways, Marvel Cosmic Invasion is a 2D beat 'em up game, and it's kind of like if Marvel vs. Capcom 2 had a baby with like a classic beat 'em up game, like, like the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games or something. Because when you're in the character select screen, you select 2 characters, and then at any point in time, like in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, you can like switch between them and you can use that to create like combos and stuff and work together. And it's really awesome. The other thing about this game that I love is that you actually can block and dodge attacks. Normally in beat 'em up games, I find them more frustrating than fun because I always feel like I want some extra mobility that the game isn't giving me. Like I always feel like I can't dodge or block attacks in the way that I want to. This game actually lets you do that, and it's really satisfying to play. The main reason why I can't put it much higher, though, is because it's pretty short. I think the story took me, 4 hours to beat, and I think it is, $30. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot of replay value here, because you can obviously play with all the different characters. There are, challenges that you can do, so you can definitely get a decent amount of hours into the game. But I'm just not that type of gamer. I don't replay games. I like to play games, play through a story, and then I'm done with it. But I would just give that warning, and it is a reason why I can't put it much higher on this list. At number 8, I have Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So this is a TV show spin-off of the TMNT Mutant Mayhem movie that came out a few years ago. And this is really great stuff, man. I absolutely love the art style of the animation because normally when you get a Nickelodeon spin-off of a big movie, it's something shitty 3D animation that looks way worse than the movie. And the whole time you're watching it, it's yeah, I'm watching something that's lesser than the movie. What they decided to do with this show was they decided to make a less expensive, more 2D animation style that has its own identity and doesn't feel like a cheap knockoff of the movie. Because this has a very unique, almost doodle style animation, like something you would see in a children's notebook. That is unique from the movie without feeling like a cheaper, lesser version of it. But even the show itself is just a lot of fun. I think the only downside to it is that because it is a spin-off set in the same canon as the movies, you know that the show is never going to have the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles storylines or villains. Shredder's never going to pop up in this. The alien guys, what are they, Krangs, I think? They're never going to pop up in this. So they are fighting a bunch of rando villains. I don't actually know if the villains in the show are from previous media or if they're original characters created for the show. But even still, working with what the show has to work with, they do a really good job with it. It has the same voice actors for the Turtles from the movie, and they're still really great. If you like that movie, I would definitely recommend checking that show out. At number 7, I have The Fantastic Four First Steps. Yeah, this movie was really solid, but I do feel like there was something just missing from it, and I can't quite put my finger on what, because there's nothing explicitly wrong with it. It just doesn't have a certain je ne sais quoi that made me like love it as much as I wanted it to. But I mean, in general, I really like the movie. I love the aesthetics of it. The retro futurism is really cool. The cast is all great. I think Pedro Pascal, for as much hate as people give him, I mean, he's phenomenal and he's great as Reed Richards. I loved blonde lady. What's her name? I forgot. As Sue Storm, like, she's great. Joseph Quinn is also really great as Johnny Storm, even though he's not like the traditionally handsome man. He really does his own thing with it. I feel like that is really cool. Eben Moss Backrack is great as the Thing. Like, I feel like all of these elements are really great and they should come together for like an amazing movie, but it just wasn't. Maybe it could have used a longer runtime because there definitely was some stuff missing with the Thing and his like girlfriend. There's like, again, speaking back to Captain America Brave New World, there were like rumors that there were scenes missing of him and his girlfriend, but because she was Jewish, they didn't want too much Jewiness in the movie, which is really weird, and that's where we're at in the world. We don't need to get too deep into that. But yeah, still solid. Just can't say that I loved it like I want to. And at number 6, I have Peacemaker Season 2. This is an interesting example because I would probably argue that Fantastic Four is ultimately a better movie than Peacemaker Season 2 is a season of television. But I would then argue that because I was more emotionally attached to the characters in Peacemaker Season 2, that's ultimately going to have it rank higher than me, right? Like, at no point watching the Fantastic Four did I tear up. But there were multiple times in Peacemaker Season 2 that my eyes were welling up because I genuinely care about these characters. So it's like, sure, the season finale is kind of a mess. I will concede that. I don't know why we were spending so much time with Rick Flag Sr. and setting up future projects and yada, yada, yada. But like at the end of the day, when I'm sitting there welling up at the scene with Peacemaker and his friends and they're there to support him, it's like, I don't really care when I'm witnessing the beauty of Peacemaker and Harcourt on that quote-unquote date. I just don't care about all of the negative aspects of the season finale. If you can make me care about your characters, I am going to forgive a lot. That's not to say that it's not worth criticizing those aspects and it's not something that James Gunn needs to work on in the future. But yeah, I would much rather a beautiful mess than a lackluster, more coherent movie. And at number 5, I have Gen V Season 2. This is just another really solid season of Gen V. It is kind of the Harley Quinn effect at this point with The Boys content, where I'm not going to sit here and say that this is like a super fresh season of The Boys, even though I know that they're technically two different shows. It is a lot of the same, right? You have, gross out stuff. Oh, gore. Oh, they swearing. But this season of Gen V provides a really fantastic villain and a really fantastic villainous performance, which I think sets it apart from something like Harley Quinn season 5, where like I'm still very intrigued by this world and they still continue to provide more lore. They continue to provide more intrigue in a way that still makes me very invested in this world and makes this a really great season of television. At number 4, I have Invincible Season 3. Invincible continues to be phenomenal. I think it is one of the best comic book adaptations of all time. I think it continues to ride that perfect balance of, hey, we're going to faithfully adapt the comic, but make certain changes here and there. And I think it's really great. Admittedly, it is kind of just more Invincible in the way that Harley Quinn is kind of just more Harley Quinn. But I think that this is at a higher level than that. That's why I have it as high as I do up here in the rankings. And it's also adapting a comic book storyline, so we know that it's going to go somewhere. And at number 3, I have Superman 2025. I think that this was a really great start to the DCU. Yes, I know that Creature Commandos is technically the start of the DCU, but shut up. I think that David Cornsweet is a really great Superman. I absolutely loved Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and I just overall really dig the like weird DCU that James Gunn has created here. I love that it's fantastical. It's not trying to be like, oh, what if Superman was in the real world? Not trying to throw too much shade at Zack Snyder because I like Man of Steel for what it is, but I really dig that we're now finally getting a really fantastical DCU. It's a movie that made me excited for the future of DC. I really want to see what this universe's Batman looks like. I really want to see what this universe's Wonder Woman looks like. I really appreciated seeing Superman being this beacon of hope and positivity and contrasting that with the cynical world that we live in 2025. It's a movie that genuinely did what I think a Superman movie should do, which is it made me feel nice and fuzzy inside and it made me want to be nice to other people. As corny as that sounds. At number 2, I have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. This is definitely the biggest surprise of the year because the trailer, which you're currently watching right now, was absolute ass. I cannot believe that this is the trailer that they went with. It basically just made it look super corny. It had the, stereotypical Marvel dialogue, which is a term that people admittedly overuse, but this trailer just felt like the epitome of that. But when you actually start watching the show, it's way more dramatic than you necessarily would have expected it to. It covers darker themes than you necessarily would have expected it to. Unlike Captain America Brave New World, it's not scared to acknowledge the fact that some of its characters are black, and it deals with certain aspects of that. This is a show that just does everything that I want these comic book stories to do, which is bring on artists, have them tell genuine, earnest stories, and don't pussy out of telling great stories just because you think Nerdrotic or the Critical Drinker might make a tweet about you. Now look, I admittedly, and man have we been waiting for a great Spider-Man cartoon for a minute. I mean, we haven't had one since Spectacular Spider-Man in the early to mid 2000s, I think. And while don't get me wrong, the cancellation of that show still pains me to this day. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is a worthy successor. I'm glad that we finally have another great Spider-Man animated series. And at number 1, the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, the number 1 comic book related thing of 2025 is Thunderbolts. I thought that this movie was shockingly fantastic. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was definitely getting sold on it because of the marketing, but nothing could have prepared me for just how much of a real movie this turned out to be. Again, a lot like what I mentioned with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Thunderbolts just feels like a real movie, directed by a real filmmaker with a real creative vision. Something that doesn't feel like it was chopped up and repackaged because studio executives had their corporate mandates and blah, 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 blah. It's a movie that just wants to explore a specific theme, it wants to explore these specific characters, and it does so without holding anything back. Dare I say that it feels like what Marvel used to be. It's also a movie that makes me hopeful for the future of the MCU. The fact that they can get me attached to characters like the Thunderbolts in the same way that they managed to get me attached to characters like Captain America, like Thor, like Hulk. The fact that Marvel still has the ability to do that and doesn't have to rely on having old characters walk in through stupid multiversal Doctor Strange portals is a sign of good things to come, I hope. And as somebody that doesn't have the best mental health situation going on in this noggin, I've never gone to see a psychiatrist. I'm not saying that I've been diagnosed with anything. But I definitely related to a lot of the shit that they talked about in this movie. Yelena at this point is the face of the MCU, at least to me. She's by far the character that I'm most invested in right now. I care way more about Yelena than I ever have at any point with Black Widow. Of course, we'll have to wait and see where the MCU decides to put its focus after Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. But regardless of what they do, I really hope we get more movies like Thunderbolts and less movie like Captain America Cowardly Old World. Got him. No, I'm kidding. That sucked. But anyways, that is my list. It is objectively correct. You're not allowed to disagree. But if you want to attempt to, even though you will fail, Please feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what comic book things I missed. I'm sure there's some stuff I didn't watch, but let's be real. Who else on YouTube watched Bat Fam? Nobody. That's who. Bye.